She is an advanced certified fearless living coach and certified fearless trainer, and she brings you from where you are to where you want to be. Kelly has been a coach for 15 plus years and is kept busy with her 6 children. She supports you to master your fear through the skills and tools of fearless living created by Rhonda Britton. She teaches these techniques in workshops and on her weekly podcast, where she and her business partner, Terry Sayer, share the 12 steps to freedom. As you implement the tools that she teaches, you'll be able to have more confidence, be less frustrated, and take action instead of procrastinating. Welcome.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Kelly.
Hello.
So first of all,
Kelly.
the very first thing I want to say is it's Kelly and Kelly today, and we get this a lot, and we have a solution. Kelly Fox is oftentimes referred to as Foxy during when we are in seminars and workshops and things like that together, just to keep us apart, because clearly, twins separated at birth here.
Absolutely. Yes, it is
So
fun.
So welcome. First, let's talk about, how did you get into this type of coaching? What drew you to this?
Yeah, so I grew up, and I think similarly, that word didn't come out very well. Similarly with a lot of others, I grew up with a lot of fear, and that evidence building talent of my fear build up a lot of evidence that I wasn't capable of many things, and I wasn't enough of whatever in that moment. And so I also was diagnosed with clinical depression. And so I wanted to be more happy, if that makes sense. I wanted to feel more empowered to create change in my life, to create a life that I really enjoyed. And I wanted to be a better mom. And I think that as I continued to search for that, I then found fearless living, and I started the process myself, because with everything, it starts with you. And I was coached, and I read Rhonda Britton's book, Fearless Living, and I saw myself changing. And I felt like, if I can do this, if I can create this kind of change in my life, and I know this is said way too much, but if I can do it, really, anyone can do it. So, yeah. And I knew that if I became a coach, if I studied and learned how to do these skills and tools, that it would get more ingrained in me, and I would more likely stay with it and continue that process of change, and continue that process of growth and transition in my own life, which has been very true. And I get the bonus of helping others too.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, the reason that I thought talking about fearless living and really going kind of in depth on this topic was a good one is because we, as entrepreneurs, basically have to face our fears on a daily basis. There are always new challenges. There are always new things coming up, and you're solely responsible for your paycheck at the end of the day. So it can be a lot of pressure. There can be a lot of fear surrounding that, and it can manifest in a lot of different ways. So I thought, maybe you could talk a little bit about that. How do we express fear, or, avoidance behaviors, whatever it might be?
Yeah. sometimes overcoming our fear can be a minute by minute, second by second process, right? There are a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unpredictability in owning your own business. And there's a lot of tasks, and everything comes down to you. A lot of us, especially in the beginning, we don't really have a team, right? We don't have people working with us until we get a little bit more successful. Then we get people, right? And so there's a lot of little things that we get done, that we need to get done on a daily basis. And so it's real easy to get overwhelmed in that. And those bigger tasks, or those things we have to learn more about, or the training that we need to do things business like, or things that we just don't know how to do, like creating a website or making a flyer or networking, right? There's all these things that we now have on our plate when we're creating a business and wanting to expand that business, right? So it's a lot of things, a lot of new things, and that involves risk. And so anytime we're going to take a risk, anytime we're going to step out of our comfort zone, our fear is going to definitely show up and say, hey, wait a minute, step back. We don't want to go out of our comfort zone. That isn't safe. So our fear is definitely going to come up, and it's going to manifest in a lot of different ways. It's going to manifest in, negative self-talk, in limiting beliefs, in procrastinating, in avoiding certain tasks, all kinds of different ways it's going to present itself. And we might be believing those excuses or things that come up. We might be beating ourselves up over them. We might have things on our list, on our to-do list, that continue to be there day after day after day. And we may be afraid to ask for help from someone else, or hire a coach, or, all these different avenues that might be available to us.
Absolutely. And I think people are going to be able to see themselves in all of those descriptions. They sound very familiar, coping mechanisms to avoid something that just feels overwhelming or scary.
Yeah.
I love it. So you have lots of techniques to deal with fear, but we talked kind of about one of them that has such a catchy name. And can you talk about that?
Yes. So the tool that I think can help really the most, and is really easy to use in almost any situation, is called Stretch, Risk, or Die. And it is a way for you to visualize where these tasks are and help you to plan them out and ask for support, and expand that comfort zone to include them. So if you kind of think of a bullseye, inside the middle of that bullseye is our comfort zone. So those are the things that may not be comfortable, right? They may not be comfortable, but they're the things that we're choosing to do right now. They're the known, okay? And then one ring outside of that comfort zone is the stretch zone. And those are things that we may have done before, but we're not currently doing. And so that's also known as the beat up zone, because we know we can, we've done it before. So why aren't we doing it now? Right. And then one ring out from there is the risk zone. And that's things that we haven't done before. Those are things that we don't know we can be successful at. Those are things that, we might need to ask help around. Right. And then one ring out from that is the die zone. And I know that can sound scary, but the die zone are those things that are just so far out there that we don't see how they could ever happen. If we were put in the position to do them right now, we might say, I would die if I had to do that right now. Right? So that's kind of the die zone. And so when we look at those tasks that we have ahead of us, or in front of us, or that to-do list, or whatever it is, if we can plot them out and see what ring they fall in, then we can see why we haven't done them or why it's such a challenge to do them. Because if it's a stretch, then it's just a matter really of making a commitment and maybe having an accountability partner, right? Because we've done them before. We know how to do them. It's just a matter of deciding to do it, right? And maybe we need some support with consistency. Maybe the consistency of doing it is where the risk comes in. And so that's where the support comes in, or some kind of application that can support us, right? And then, or if I got all confused what I was saying, or if it's in the risk zone, then we can look at how can we break it down into smaller steps that might be a stretch, so that when we get to that step that really makes it the risk, it's not as much of a risk because we've done all the little steps up to it and we've kind of pulled it closer to the stretch zone. And also then we know we probably need some kind of support to get this done. And so we can start brainstorming on where can we go for this support? Is it a person? Is it something we can research? Is it, where can this support come from? Maybe we need a business coach. Maybe we need Kelly to help us with our finances and scheduling out our finances. I know I've come to her class to have help with that. Right? So all these different steps with our business, we're going to constantly be going into the risk zone. We're going to be constantly in the stretch zone. So it's the awareness around which zone these tasks are in can really support us in actually getting them done.
I'm listening to this and I think my head is about to explode. But the funny thing is that when you were talking, I realized, and I've never really thought about this before, I can go into the risk zone all day long. If there's something new I haven't done before, I have nothing but confidence. I will figure it out. I'll make it happen. Where I struggle is the stretch zone. And like you said, I've done it before. I know I can do it. It's not my favorite. And so it's the thing that keeps getting put on the to-do list and pushed back and pushed back. But the risk zone, I'm golden. I can do that. I just need a book or a coach or something, and I'll be fine. So yeah, that's great. And I think that's a really interesting insight, actually, that it might not be for some people. The risk zone has a lot more risk, to it, but it actually might not be the thing that holds some people back as much as that stretch zone. Wow.
Yeah. For you, Kelly, a lot of it has to do with asking for support or being willing to research is in your comfort zone. So the aspect that kind of helps you jump over the stretch zone into the risk zone is that the steps that get you there are completely in your comfort zone. And so your fear isn't really stopping you from doing the research or asking for the support, because that's safe for you. That's in your comfort zone. And it may not be until the implementation that your fear gets alerted. Right?
Yeah. Yep. Honestly, you nailed that right there, but that's great. It's really great insight. And then being able to recognize where you are, that bullseye gives you now a tool to be able to create the counterpoint, countermeasures, or the coping mechanism to actually help you to move forward. I'm so excited.
Good. And you can really use this tool with so many different things, especially if you're at that point where you have a team. You can see where these tasks lie for each member of that team. Because for you, it may be in your comfort zone, but for someone else on your team, it may be a die. And so when you're breaking up different tasks that the team needs to get done, you're not going to want to give that person where it's a die. You're not going to give them that task, right? Because it's not getting done. You want to give it to someone where it's in their comfort zone or it's in their stretch zone, and then support them in getting it done, right? If it's a stretch. So it's good to use in a team, in a team atmosphere or by yourself, because it gives you that awareness, right? And the first step to anything is awareness around what it is that you need to do, right? It's not just the task, but it's how you can get that task done.
I love that. And I love that you are applying it to your team building as well, because one of my concepts around building teams is you do not want people who are just like you. You need and want people who have different talents and different abilities, or your team's going to fall apart, right?
Yep.
But as part of that, you do need to recognize each individual's strengths and weaknesses. And typically, in my mind, I think of that in terms of job skills, but also personality, personality traits. You don't want to put an introvert making sales calls all day long,
right?
Because that's probably their die zone. Yeah.
I would completely drain them.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I have another tool that I use that involves energy profiling that supports you in building your team as well, and knowing who you have on your team and who you need on your team. So just a little plug for that. I have some information on that too, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I actually am going to ask you to put your contact information and give us, let us know what's coming up next, what people might be able to tap into and learn some more, or how they can contact you. So if you can put that into the chat after this conversation, that would be fabulous. But yeah, I'm super stoked right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really helpful. Now, of course, the next step, the one that we need to learn more about, is going to be the tools and the steps to be able to turn those scary things into action. So looking forward to finding out more about that.
Absolutely.
I know I want to keep going, but I know that you have another appointment right after this, and I don't want to keep you too long. Are there any last things that we should be talking about? Anything that maybe we need to make sure we address before we wrap things up?
Sure. I think, as I said before, awareness is the key. It is, as Kelly talked earlier, my business partner and I, Terry Sayre, who's actually my mom as well, we teach the 12 steps to freedom. And the first step is awareness. The second step is willingness. So that also is involved in getting things done. And you can see where that willingness is, especially if it's a risk. If it's a risk, are you willing to break it down into smaller steps? Are you willing to look at asking for support? Are you willing to get an accountability partner with those stretches? Right? So once you're aware of what that step is, the next step is, are you willing? And your willingness level is going to tell you whether or not you really want to get it done, or maybe you feel like you are supposed to get it done. And so really getting clear on those tasks and what are you really being called to do, and what is something that possibly someone is telling you you should do, and really getting clear on those things that are on your path.
I've got to say, I just had another aha, because my way of dealing with those things is like, I just have to do it. I just have to do it. So I never have asked myself if I'm actually willing to do it. I just have to plunge in to the deep end, do it, because that's what's required. And I've never once asked myself if I was actually willing to do it.
Yeah.
So again, that I'm just like, well, you know what? I think I have some homework I need to do.
Always.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right. So I am going to ask you to definitely put your contact information, everything in the chat so that people can contact you. And I'm also going to ask you right now, please come back and join us and let's talk some more, because this is great stuff. I love it. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being with us today. I really appreciate it. And I think everyone who watches this interview is going to have some great insights, and I'm super excited.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm glad that what I have shared has supported you, and I hope it supports your peeps as well. And I'm definitely available to go way deeper and individualize all of this for everyone. And I would love to come back. I have a lot of other things that I could share that will support you in moving easier through your career.
Oh, and one last thing for sure. When you put your information in the chat, add the podcast too, because that's something we didn't even talk about today, but that's got to be a great resource for people. All right. Well, thank you. And I will be talking with you soon.
All right. Thank you.